So I've been doing an experiment for the last week or so, really quite an intense experiment at a nuclear reactor. So this is one of the things where you're basically doing the experiment almost 24/7. I mean, you do get some sleep between the experiments, but they're usually so costly to run that you've got to be pretty committed to it. And the system that we were looking at is fairly similar to this guy. This is a purine ring of some sort, I'd say guanine it looks like. But so this is in the middle of your DNA, that guy up there. That's not really the bit we're interested in. The bit we're interested in is just that 5-membered ring on the top, which is an imidazole ring. And imidazole is interesting because it's the side chain of the amino acid histidine, which turns out to be really important for all sorts of protein interactions like the insulin in your body that regulates your sugar and that sort of thing. So it's really quite pervasively important. And we were doing the experiment at a neutron reactor. Now neutrons, it's a rather bizarre technique. They've got some advantages and some disadvantages. The advantages is it can tell you things that you really cannot find out from other methods. The disadvantage, of course, is it's bloody ludicrously expensive to actually get a neutron source. So one of the best ways of getting a neutron source is just to run a nuclear reactor. And there is one powerful neutron reactor that is used for research purposes like this in the European Union, and that's called the Institut Langevin. And it's very expensive, and it has contributors from lots of nations, and the UK is a prime contributor to it. Contributes about a third of the budget, so the total budget's about 100 million euros or so, give or take. And the UK contribution is about 25, 30 million, that sort of thing. And this is just one of the direct impacts. Before anything has really happened, all that's happened so far is there's been a referendum, the Brexit referendum. No one's done anything, but just the jitters from that, the pound has gone down somewhere between 10 and 15% against the dollar, maybe half that against the euro. And this is a direct impact of this on British science. And that's the British contribution to this reactor is, say, 30 million. And that means that and the budget's done in euros. So if Britain wants to maintain its commitment to institutes like this that can make unique discoveries that you really can't make by other methods, then that's going to cost you an extra 3 million extra pounds just because the pound's gone down against the euro. And that money's got to come from somewhere, which basically means someone's got to take a cut somewhere else, and that's going to be spread over British science in general. And this is before anything has happened. You're looking at losing millions of pounds of British research money. And that's, on the grand scheme of things, that's relatively peanuts compared to what Britain's going to lose overall, in that for British research, it got about, I think it's 300 million pounds a year extra out of the EU than it put in for its science budget. So and the idea that this, we're just going to have a vote because of democracy and we're going to get the British government to put that money back into science is just purely delusional when you consider how many times a conservative government like the one that we have at the moment has actually put extra money into science. So, I mean, this is really going to be damaging for science in the United Kingdom. And this, people ask me, what is my actual investment in this? Because I'm not employed in the United Kingdom. But if you look at almost everything that I've ever done, it's defending science in one form or another from, well, all takers, whether they be creationists trying to push, creationism or some biblical interpretation of this, that, or the other, basically polluting science like that, or pseudoscientists with their thorium-powered cars or solar roadways or whatever. It all basically is using the credibility of science to sell bullshit. And the same with feminism. well, come on, this idea that there's a feminist version of glaciology or something is just a complete farce. And having these people try and ride on the coattails of science just discredits real science. And that's basically my interest here. Is this will have a large damaging effect on British science. And even though I'm not actually paid by Great Britain, I can see that this is going to hurt science in the United Kingdom. And this is really, nothing's happened yet. There has been a referendum. No one has actually talked about leaving the EU yet. And this is one of the reasons why I talk about this, is because you take a look at the budgets of things that have previously undermined science, like the solar roadways, $2 million, whatever. That's comparable to the instantaneous extra budget that Britain's going to have to now put into just one reactor. Or, if you look at in total, all of the previous pseudoscience that I've debunked is peanuts compared to the damage that's going to be done to British science over this. So, yeah, I mean, that's my issue, other than it just being bloody stupid. And you can sort of see this immediately in the day after the Brexit. I mean, Brexit's caused the political suicide of virtually all of its leaders. Boris Johnson, he goes from, this will be our Independence Day, to the day afterwards saying we need lots of close ties with Europe, basically describing the exact European Union that he's just left. And Farage the same. And the reason for all of this, of course, is what they promised is not what they, the prime things that they were promising. That Britain's going to be fabulous outside of the European Union. Economically, it's going to be all green hills and blue skies, that sort of thing. Well, the reality is virtually everyone immediately after they won said what Brexit will look like in practice is we'll still be part of the common market, which basically means we'll pay almost exactly as much in to the European Union as we do currently. So there's going to be no real saving there whatsoever. And the second one is that we're going to get control of our borders. Well, part of the requirement for the common market is the free movement of people. So in reality, there's going to be no more control over the borders. There's going to be no saving at all over what you had previously. So what was all this in aid of? Why have you taken this? The pound's gone down 10% sort of overnight over this. And this isn't sort of, it's going to bounce back sometime later. You look at all the long-term uncertainty of this, which is probably going to go on for years. It's one of the most financially stupid things that a democracy has ever done. And anyway, so I figure I've got maybe one more video on me on the Brexit. I just wanted to vent a little about having actually been to one of these really very multinational facilities recently, what people's opinion, including the people of Britain, is on the Brexit in the scientific community. And then after that, I hope to get back to something else. Although, I mean, the sheer size of this screw up with the Brexit is just, it's off the scale. I mean, you think that Ken Ham with his recently opened Dinosaur Adventureland park, which cost $100 million or something, you think that's a waste of money. Britain was getting £300 million extra, or euros, out of the EU than it was putting in. So, I mean, it just eclipses everything else. Anyway, after that, the thermal camera, which I crowdfunded about a month ago, has just arrived. So I've got to go pick that up shortly. And so hopefully I'll do some interesting unboxing stuff with that. But I've got to tell you, there are just so many cool things that I can do with that. Yeah, I mean, so just instantly off the bat, I'll be able to show you some really, really cool things, because it's like having X-ray vision, that sort of thing. You see things, you can see physical processes with a thermal camera that you just cannot see with the naked eye. So anyway, yeah, we'll be getting back to stuff like that. Thanks.